So I am so full of the Divine Mother. It's like all of her is in my body right now. I can hardly breathe. It's a celebration, acknowledgement of this incredible principle that's been going on forever behind the screen of our mental lives, our vital selfishnesses and obscurities, our desires and ambitions, our preferences. It's this huge principle that's always there, waiting for an opportunity to do her work, to come in, to transmute you, to make you into a vessel, an instrument, a channel. It's all she wants to do. Just waiting for us to let go, to step out of it, to get off it, to turn to her. So this book is just a piece of paper, but this principle is living, real, pervasive. So I'm very happy that we're here now in the third part of the 6th chapter of Sri Aurobindo's Mother Book. So let's just hope I can stay with you all to ride this out to its completion. But in fact, the completion's already here. Okay, so we've been introduced to the 4 basic principles of the Mother. She manifests in each of us with one or more of these. These principles of the transcendent Mahashakti, the actualizing force of the creation. Its nearest proximity to the Bhagavad Gita is the Brahman. Through the huge infinities of the Brahman, the creation is expressed. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's the chapters from 8 to 12, describing this relationship, this process of integration, this meeting of this ancient, primal, universal principle. And Sri Aurobindo has organized it in this way, that you can find its references in those chapters of the Gita. There is one truth to be realized. There is one God to merge with. There is this one essential principle of which both are an expression of. We're learning to move into relationship with those principles. Just like we move into relationship with the objects of our senses, or with our mind or ideas or our hopes or dreams or our imaginings, or how we long or love or care or worry for our children and those that are close to us. These are all just reflections through the little human vehicle that has such a limited capacity of this huge archetypal force. Satchitananda. These are the words that describe the one force with these qualities of existence, that which exists, consciousness, the force, the awareness, the capacity to know and experience, and ananda, the exquisite delight, the exquisite experience of being in existence in a body. So the four principles: the transcendent, wisdom, vast spaciousness. It's not like the wisdom that we know, although when this force of vast spaciousness enters into the human system, it becomes experiential, and therefore then it knows without thinking what's happening. It's the wisdom that is not something you have to keep a record of. It's always there. That there is this power, this force, this determination, this insistence, this resolve of the power, the Kali, that principle. It's not female or male. This ability to push through obstacles, the ability to strive for something much greater than what you've known, to break out of the box. It's the sudden awakening, the insistence, the demand for truth, for God, for love. And then the lovely radiance of Lakshmi, the loving spaciousness, taking the spaciousness of wisdom and bringing it into form, and bringing that charm and that wonder and that delight. Still not yet fully embodied, but in the upper chakras, in the heart, in the upper vital, in the intelligence, in the mind. Her delights can be known and experienced and seen in all the subtle planes. And then the Mahashwar Swati, the workhorse, the tank, the one who sees what needs to be fixed and does it over time consistently so that no detail is left out and no piece left behind. Perfection. Manifesting that principle, that infinite wisdom, that truth into the living reality of everyday life. Making it real, making it lived, not an abstraction. Something that could be embodied. So now Sri Aurobindo is going to step and go further. In this, he's going to explore other aspects of this cosmology, and he too is going to bring it down into something tangible about how to live, how to be in relationship to these principles, these archetypal principles that have governed existence, that all us human beings are emanations of, the beauties of. We are actually already that. Even our worst parts, as well as our most ascendant, our angers and our rage, as well as our spaciousness and compassion, our delight and our play and our fun, as well as our perfection, demanding excellence. All of these are human. The human qualities, it's hard to say in the evolution of consciousness. There was that came up from nature in the haphazard way that produced living bodies. But there was also concurrently this descent of this quality of being and intelligence that came in simultaneously. We're the hybrid of these two actions. And each of us have come to a place where that which was emerging from below and that which was ascending above is coming together in each of us. Moving into relationship to that process, learning how to collaborate, align ourselves with it, is the key of the spiritual path. It's not the dharma, it's not the disciplines, it's not the practices. These are just preparations. Is this moving into relationship when that divine Satchitananda shows itself in any aspect of itself, in the mind or in the vital or in the physical, shows itself through the reflection of the psychic. Through that principle, something gets set into motion. A current starts moving. It starts carving a path for itself in each of us. This is the true spiritual path. It's not some sort of structure of attainment with symptoms and so on and so forth, the true spiritual path is moving into alignment with that current until you become a living, breathing channel for that current into existence. That static awareness, that static awakening that's out there, the Buddhism and the Vedic principles, this is only one piece of this vast, multidimensional, multi-aspected potentiality that's seeking to manifest itself in each of us. So now Sri Aurobindo goes further. He begins to explore the next layer of this great archetypal principle. So we're going to begin reading.
There are other great personalities of the Divine Mother, but they were more difficult to bring down and have not stood out in front with so much prominence in the evolution of the Earth Spirit. These are among them presences indispensable for the supramental realization, most of all one who is her personality of that mysterious and powerful ecstasy and ananda, which flows from a supreme divine love. The ananda that alone can heal the gulf between the highest heights of the supramental spirit and the lowest abysses of matter. The ananda that holds the key of a wonderful divinest life, and even now supports from its secrecies the work of all the other powers of the universe.
Ananda, the treasure, the nectar, the payoff, the proof, the intoxication, the fulfillment. The ananda is the evidence that the Satchitananda has found a vessel. And it's the experience of that quality of consciousness that we all are part of, experiencing itself in existence as each of us. You blink your eyes for the divine, it's delight. You touch your arm for divine, it's ananda. The bliss of being, the tangible nectar. This is the substance, the quality that has provided the nurturance for life. It is this deep and rich ocean of consciousness experiencing itself in existence. When the ananda comes, it's all the way down to the body. It's not just in the transcendent. It's not just in the awareness. It's not just in the passion or the heart. It's in every nook and cranny and crevice of your body. It all can awaken. It all can be an expression of that divine principle down to its grittiest, messiest, most disgusting aspects. The slime mold. It's just in delight being slime. The worm, the snail, that slithers across your walkway in the delight of leaving its track. It is in every aspect of this creation is swimming in this quality of ananda. And it's us human beings who have unwittingly, successfully separated themselves from this ocean, being in pain, suffering, the sense of lack or craving, thinking it needs something from somewhere or to avoid something from someplace else. But it's the substance, the tangible fabric of existence. There isn't this person and then truth. There isn't this person then God. There isn't suffering and then happiness. There isn't pain, and sorrow, they are all this one substance. We just haven't learned how to attune to it. We haven't learned how to clear the vessel that we are so that we can drink of this nectar in all its many ways. Even Sri Aurobindo, he said it here. There are other great personalities of the Divine Mother, but they were more difficult to bring down and not stood out in front with so much prominence in the evolution of Earth nature because of their nature. Because back in 1930, 1940, the bodies, matter, had not yet been prepared to receive this force into its substance. The cells were still resisting. They were still separating. They were still creating up obstacles and barriers based on their evolutionary emergence. So he had to struggle. They were complete in the awareness. They had brought that awareness down through the supramental force into their body, but it had not yet been able to be fully embodied. Even the mother, as it tried to embody her, it was tremendous pain, illness, and death-like conditions. Sri Aurobindo, I gave up. He knew I can only bring in this much. He knew the body that he was born with was not sufficient for the opportunity of Ananda. But it's here now. How do I know? Because I'm a proof of the pudding. It's Ananda that awoke in me, in my own experience. I'm, of course, not unique in this. Many have, but it's been mistaken, it's been misunderstood, it's been frightening, or it's been disturbing, or they become overtaken by it and express it to the more limited expressions, to sex or possessions or control or enjoyment. But in your most deep satisfactions, when you put in your mouth the fresh strawberry and taste explodes, to the moment of orgasm in the sexual act, all of these are the expressions of the Ananda that are already there in every human system, but they're tiny, tiny drops, tiny pieces of it. And because we become habituated to these little expressions of Ananda, we don't want to give them up for something greater. We don't know something greater. And even when we do open up, it's so great that we don't know how to hold it. It feels like pain. It feels like too much energy. It feels like too much. The system has to be trained. It has to learn to relax, to become fluid, transparent to this Ananda, so that it can be tolerable. So it took years for him to set in motion the process, which then has begun awakening people throughout the world since 1968 or 69 or so. It's a process where now it's able to enter into the earth, into the cells, into the matter, into the substance of physicality, not just in the higher reaches of the mind or the heart. She's reminding me to move on. But I don't want to leave Ananda behind.
You're not. There's more.
Oh, there's more. Okay, continue on.
But human nature, bounded, egoistic, and obscure, is inapt to receive these great presences or to support their mighty action. Only when the four have founded their harmony and freedom of movement in the transformed mind and life and body can those other rarer powers manifest in the earth movement and the supramental action become possible. For when her personalities are all gathered in her and manifested, and their separate working has been turned into a harmonious unity, and they rise in her to their supramental godheads, then is the mother revealed as the supramental Mahashakti, and brings pouring down her luminous transcendences from their ineffable ether. Then can human nature change into dynamic, divine nature, because all the elemental lines of the supermental truth consciousness and truth force are strung together, and the harp of life is fitted for the rhythms of the eternal.
Cool. It's cool. Because that's what it's like. See, we're 10,000 cells. Every type of human being, we have a segment of it. We have everything from the most cruel to the most loving, the most vicious and the most selfish, to the most generous and the most surrendered. It is the nature of each of us that we carry the whole thing. We carry all the problem, all the error, and we carry within us the potentiality, the entire potentiality for the perfect and full manifestation. But we have to go through a process of conversion. We have to become converted. We have to start taking the pieces of ourselves that opens up to the divine principle and gather them together as a team, as a collection of parts of ourselves. And then this team builds itself through its actions and through its intentionalities and its efforts. And it begins to create an alignment of the multiple parts of itself. And in this process, we begin to set in motion or prepare the base by which then this supermental force can enter and take over, or at least assist us in the transformational process of the other parts that have not yet been able to be converted. And in this process, there comes this alignment between our higher intelligence and our lower mind, our judgments and our memories, as well as our aspirations and our visions, to our heart, where we go to the highest reaches of longing for the divine principles or the glimmers of the heavens and the higher reaches of consciousness, to the heartfelt connection with the Guru or God or the Lord, down to that resentment and anger and cruelty and selfishness and that betrayal, into that ambition and desire and control and that fear, down into the areas of the lust and the greed and the anger, into those territories where few modern human beings dare to tread. It begins a process of transforming the entire vehicle and its entire collective error, all the 10,000 parts, the parts you never even ever wanted to meet, become then converted into opportunities, expressions of the potentiality, which is unlimited, that is seeking to manifest itself into this creation. Then, the thing that's so interesting is the body becomes the vessel. It becomes the instrument. It becomes the record keeper. It becomes the body of wisdom and knowingness, so by which all the frequencies, all the channels of the human system, from the top of the crown to the base of the Muladhara, open up, and they become avenues for this Satchitananda to express itself, to play its music, and its infinite variations, infinite characteristics into the existence. The universe plays us, and we reap the fulfillment of being the instrument of that unspeakably divine expression. So I wax poetic too, see? It's my experience. It's what happens. You know, I mean, I've got 10,000 cells. I can use any one of them. I can argue with AT&T about how they screwed something up with my phone service. I can haul my own luggage. I can make my own meals. I can argue with Satchimayee. They're all there. Nothing is left behind. Nothing is transcended or left bypassed. It all has a role to play. It becomes multiple faceted. It becomes always new, always refreshing, always coming into existence through any one of these multiple strings, rhythms, vibrations. Okay, I better continue? We better continue?
Didn't even prompt you.
See?
If you desire this transformation, put yourself in the hands of the mother and her powers without cavil or resistance, and let her do unhindered her work within you. 3 things you must have: consciousness, plasticity, unreserved surrender. For you must be conscious in your mind and soul and heart and life and the very cells of your body, aware of the mother and her powers and their working. For although she can and does work in you, even in your obscurity and your unconscious parts and moments, it is not the same thing as when you are in an awakened and living communion with her.
The universe is playing us. It's always been playing us. We've been part of a con game of our own creation. We're being played. The universe is running, is playing out all the scenarios, all the samskaras, all the patterns, all the possibilities that human life is through 7.4 billion people. She's been doing it all along. So what? We kill each other. So what? We get along. So what? We cause harm and cruelty and all the rest. These are all just expressions, different notes of the same principle. But these are all unconscious, you see. We're being motivated, we're being lived. We wake up in the morning, we have hunger, we have desire, we have want. What is it that's living us? This is this same principle. But we're unconscious of it. We're so caught up in our preferences and our judgments and in what we've known and what we have control of and what we feel that we don't want to experience and what we want to experience. All these things get in the way of knowing that we're being played all along and have been. This becoming conscious of the fact is a whole different thing, because we move into relationship with that which lives us. We move into a dance. We move into a movement in response to the universe movement. We become responsive. We become a good partner. We learn the moves. We learn to sense when the energy is coming and when to stop whatever we're doing and allow it to come. Or we sense when it's moving, how to be with the resistance and the obstacles or the pain and the difficulty. We learn to be skillful. It's like a baby thrown into the ocean, having to learn to swim. This is what happens when the spiritual path starts. Everything you've been told, everything you've read, all the intellectual body of knowledge of what it is, when the process, the actual transformational process happens, it's a sink or swim. There's no handbook. The only thing you may benefit from is a guide, to guide you, to assist you, to understand the nature of what is happening to you, that your mind can't grasp, your vital can't control, and your body doesn't know how to hold. Showing you this is not something to resist. This is something to throw out. This is something to yield to. This is something that you want to understand and see. This guiding yourself through all the different parts of our system once this force starts manifesting. It's very clear to me that Shree and the Aurobindo and the mother worked with people who were already awakening. I've read their letters. I've heard their exchanges with each other as they worked with each person's systems. I listened to their teachings that they gave to these people. It's the same thing I do. Exactly the same thing. Guiding people, showing them how to move into alignment with a transformative force that once it finds its expression in you, starts converting your body your mind, your heart into an adequate vessel for itself. So what do we learn? We learn how to put yourself in the hands of the mother and her powers without cavil, doubt, wavering, or resistance. And let her do, unhindered, her work within you. Now, not everyone who comes to me has this. Many people are in awareness. You don't get all the juicy stuff in awareness. You get spaciousness, you get freedom from your ego, you get the sense of freedom and unboundedness, but all this content of you is still there. One piece, 5 parts of your 10,000 parts is now free. And the rest are still in bondage. So until that process starts, this is not possible. We have teachings for people who just want that one part. Buddhism, Vedic principles. This is something else. This is the full giving over of every piece of our being, our person, our nature, to the divine. It takes a great deal of intelligence and awareness to let go, to surrender, to be conscious of what's going on, to pay attention to the symptoms. Because if you're not paying attention, your old reactivity or judgment about what's happening to you can come in and put in resistance or put in obscurity or put in a story about what's happening that isn't what's happening. To suspend the mind, to not jump based on the reaction that's coming from the vital, to not chase after the sensory attractions that come up when the force starts entering into the system. To find the ananda, the bliss, the wisdom, the truth, that quality of self-existent reality that's already there with you. To stop, to be still, to be present, and to allow this divine force to have its way. The very cells of your body, aware of the mother and her powers and their working. And this awareness is really quite felt. Sometimes she'll make love to you and sweep you away in this blanket of thick bliss and delight. Sometimes she'll throw you into pain, fierce burning, extreme discomfort. Sometimes you'll feel that our life is being taken away from you, that you're dying, that you can't breathe. Sometimes you're so big that you don't know your boundaries. All of these are symptomatic of a process that has so many variables. When people share with me, and I recognize where they are, it isn't their words. It's the quality of their consciousness that lets me know what they're engaged in. And the possibility of misunderstanding or not recognizing the mother's work in yourself is the greatest obstacle to the successful and quick completion of that process.
All your nature must be plastic to her touch, not questioning as the self-sufficient, ignorant mind questions, and doubts and disputes, and is the enemy of its enlightenment and change. Not insisting on its own movements, as the vital in man insists, and persistently opposes its refractory desires and ill will to every divine influence, not obstructing and entrenched in incapacity, inertia, and tamas, as man's physical consciousness obstructs, and clinging to its pleasure in smallness and darkness, cries out against each touch that disturbs its soulless routine, or its dull sloth, or its torpid slumber.
I love this. He's really calling it on us, right? Yeah. Well, I don't want divine right now. I just want to get high, or I just want to get laid, or I just want to eat this meal, or I'm going to have this, I'm going to do this. These little pieces that we become habituated to become more important than this unspeakable possibility for being. It's in every one of us. It's not unique to any one of you. Being able to recognize these parts of yourselves is a very much the role consciousness plays, to wake up to these qualities in you that is still choosing the small, the petty, the miserable, the selfish, the complaint, the unwilling to let go of the hope or the distrust or the suspicion or the habit of dissatisfaction, prefers the poison to the nectar, misinterprets the nectar as an intrusion, as a threat. It's incredible. The universe looks in awe and wonder. Oh my God, the Supreme is trying to manifest as them, and they're doing everything possible to avoid it. Wow. They're using all their intelligence and all their capacities and all their strength to resist, to oppose this incredible event that can happen no other place in the universe but in a self-aware, sincere, open and striving human being. Even when all parts of you seem like all parts of you are sincere, you'll discover the parts that aren't. They'll sneak up on you. They'll think, oh, okay, just one more video game. Just hang out a little longer. The movies are feeling really, really good, so I'm sure it's because I'm watching these movies, not that this bliss is coming into me. This mistaking of the fact that the bliss and the ananda, the satchitana is coming in, and we transfer it to the person we're talking to when it comes in, or the movie we're watching, or the book we're reading. We give meaning and significance to say, well, then I need that book again. I need to watch that series more. I need to this, not recognizing that it's coming through us, creating a whole different reality, reassigning the outer world. We give it the power to determine our own experience. If I can have it, if this person gives it to me, then I can be happy. If they don't give it to me, then I'm going to be miserable. So just remember this one. Physical consciousness obstructs and clinging to its pleasures in smallness and darkness, cries out against each touch that disturbs its soulless routine or its dull sloth or its torpid slumber. Welcome to you. Listen to these words. This is the bottom of the barrel of the person of you that doesn't want to be enlightened, doesn't want happiness, doesn't want truth. It wants to be right. It wants it its way. It wants to be in control. It wants truth to show up the way it expects truth to show up as. Welcome to you. Calling it on yourself, finding out when you're doing this, is what this is pointing to. Using that quality when you open to this incredible force, to move into the ability to perceive your own obscurity, to see the consequences of your choices, to see how you obscured yourself, how you resist the divine's touch, how you misinterpret it, make it into a repulsion, or you make it into an attraction or a seduction. But it's coming through you, and through the design you in error attribute it to this thought, that person, that circumstance, that feeling, that mood, the food you just ate, the grass you just smoked. It is the nature of this error. You need to bring in these qualities of that spacious wisdom, that relentless force of Kali, of truth, that sweetness, the beauty, the sensitivity, the delight of Lakshmi, and that tireless demand to keep perfecting what's not yet perfect.
The unreserved surrender of your inner and outer being will bring this plasticity into all the parts of your nature. Consciousness will awaken everywhere in you by constant openness to the wisdom and light, the force, the harmony and beauty, the perfection that comes flowing down from above. Even the body will awake and unite at last, its consciousness subliminal, no longer to the supermental superconscious force. Feel all her powers permeating from above and below and around it, and thrill to a supreme love and ananda.
Okay, this is going to happen in the future, so don't worry about this part. Don't worry about the payoff. Just be there in the work. Be in the labor. Catch yourself. Find your obscurities. Start changing your behavior. Apply the effort necessary. Quit looking for others to do it for you. Take advantage of the forces that are coming in. When they come in, spend as much time as you can with the force when it comes in. Let it do its work. Don't jump up and because you're hungry or you want your TV program's coming on or because the phone rings or you remember something to do. Stay with this force when it comes. Let it have its way fully. And then it will complete. And when it completes, then you're free. And you can do whatever stupid human thing you want to do. And this force itself, when it comes and we learn to collaborate with it, it brings you the strength. It brings you the determination. It brings you the clarity. It starts revealing to you what it is that needs to be seen. You start waking up. It does it for you once you are willing to let it come in and have its way. It'll soothe the contraction of your person, the structure of the sorrow and the separation that still is ruling you, your body. I talked to someone today, they were talking about, he had a Skype call with me because he asked me, sent me an email out of the blue. I didn't know who he was, talking about his back pain. And I could just get from the vibration of what he read, I said, it's probably energy. He had gone to all kinds of people to treat it. I said, it's probably energy. So he said, I want a Skype call. I want to talk to you. There was something about that. So when I was with him, I said, the reason you have back pain is because you're not yet living your purpose. Your back is in rigidity because it doesn't know how to be in the world without a purpose. And it's creating this clench in you. Once you discover your purpose, this clench will relax. And I could see he's a very high soul. He will be a spiritual teacher. That this clench is because he went in error. He went to drugs. He went to the human distraction. Still a young man. And because of the mission he chose to come on the planet, the consequence is severe. The greater the mission, the bigger the demand is, the harder the consequence of the choices that aren't aligned with that purpose. So as he was talking to me, he immediately started receiving the energy. And I could see it's going to move. He was saying, I can't meditate. I can't hardly do anything. I can hardly think. It takes my breath away. There's so much pain. So when we discover what it is that's blocking, because what he's doing, it's blocking the Kundalini awakening. It's blocking the force of the Satchitananda that's trying to express itself in him because of the error of his choices and his misinterpreting of what's happening to him, not having the right information. See, of course, it's just like being pregnant, right? You can read about being pregnant. You can watch other people go through the pregnancy. But you're going to have to do it yourself. And you'll notice it's a natural process. You'll get hormonal, you get cravings, you get your vomitings, you get just like transformation. And what you pop out is a new being, right? So it has its reflection. What pops out is a new way of being. So this spiritual process is just like that. It comes from the deep underpinnings of existence, expressing itself through the body, which is the most close to this archetypal structure in our human person. The body is the grounded, it's the mud, it comes out of the mud. And the emotions and the vital and the ambitions and the drives and the intelligence, they're later developments. If we trust the body, if we listen to the body, if we become in tune to these forces, then we can start moving, we can quiet the mind, we can make that, use the intelligence to begin to understand the nature of what's required in order to collaborate with the process of this transformation. And the strength, the clarity, the capacity will come the more we do this. We can't do this from our limited human capacity, no way. But when we open to the divine, it steps in and empowers us and makes us, at least in parts, divine-like, so that we can collaborate with this process. It makes us pure. It makes us simple. It gives us the strength. It gives us the resolve in order to keep going, not give up. Every time we get knocked down, it's what allows us to stand back up again in this process, till we discover that the art of this path is just standing back up and let that what next layer of obscurity and resistance and ignorance be revealed and met. Okay, continue.
But be on your guard, and do not try to understand and judge the Divine Mother by your little earthly mind that loves to subject even the things that are beyond it to its own norms and standards, its narrow reasonings and erring impressions, its bottomless, aggressive ignorance, and its petty, self-confident knowledge. The human mind, shut in the prison of its half-lit obscurity, cannot follow the many-sided freedom of the steps of the divine Shakti. The rapidity and complexity of her vision and action outrun its stumbling comprehension. The measures of her movement are not its measures.
So if you bring a developed intellect into this process, you're going to be miserable. It's going to give you, it's going to try to understand this, it's try to control this, it's going to try to make it be a certain way, because it doesn't have the capacity to recognize the multidimensional aspect of these forces, in the multidimensional aspects of the human system that's being transformed. How enormously complex, what unspeakable possibilities and potentialities and powers lie in every human system, latent, only to be activated and brought up and shown to become more perfect expressions of the divine possibility that the human body carries. So the mind will not get it. But the mind, if we give it authority, can stop the process. It can say no. It can say this is not right, or this is not for me, or it's that teacher, or it's this community, or it's that belief system versus what I've known in the past. It must be wrong. I can't tell you how many people I have left the possibility of their relationship with me because their mind gave them information because something they heard from other teachers that was too rigid, too dogmatic, and misinterpreted through the rigidity of their own mind, that they couldn't see what was actually happening with them. This can't be truth because this is not the truth I know, not the truth I'm expecting. It's not the way it should show up. This must be wrong. There must be something wrong here. It's what the mind does. It cannot. You have to tap into a kind of intelligence that's not locked into the mentalization. A quality of knowingness, a trusting, an intuition that can guide you through this process. The mind's too linear, it's too rigid. Its purpose was for survival and success. It wasn't anything to do with spirituality. It had a role to play, a dharma to play. But now it's in a different arena. It cannot translate into this arena until the experience has come Then the mind quits ruling, and it becomes the instrument of the new ruler. It becomes the means of expressing, bring the intelligence in ways that are appropriate to the actual reality of this process that we're all unwittingly engaged in, even as human beings. Then the intellect can be a great tool. It can be one more instrument in the manifestation of this possibility for mankind that the Mother Book is pointing to.
Bewildered by the swift alteration of her many different personalities, her making of rhythms and her breaking of rhythms, her accelerations of speed and her retardations, her varied ways of dealing with the problem of one and of another, her taking up and dropping now of this line and now of that one, and her gathering of them together. It will not recognize the way of the Supreme Power when it is circling and sweeping upwards through the maze of the ignorance of a supernal light.
Scientists think they got it figured out when they discovered the DNA, right? They're just seeing a tiny little sliver. Then they realize, oh, it's not the DNA, it's the genome. And it's not the genome, it's the RNA. And it's not the RNA, it's some. So it is. Our mind can only look at existence in slivers, tiny little segments that are compatible with your education and your personality and your capacity. Such limited slivers of existence. What this is unspeakably complex, unspeakably multidimensional. What can happen in even the guna cycles? We talk of the cycles of the gunas. In any one cycle, there will be many other variables besides it, tamas, rajas, or sattva. They're all happening at the same time. Just like we say in the gunas, there's a cycle of gunas that's happening every day. There's a cycle of the gunas that's happening in the cycle of the moon. There's a cycle of the guna that depends upon the rotation of the planet around its axis, and a cycle of gunas that depended on the rotation of Earth around the sun, and so on and so forth. There's these cycles upon cycles upon cycles, and each is multidimensional. Unspeakable complexities the mind cannot follow. Only something that partakes of the quality of what it is that's expressing itself through all of this can know it, recognize it, move into alignment with it. It's like when I first learned to body surf. You go out there and you get crashed down. The wave crashes on top of you, or you miss it and the wave goes in without you. You have to keep experimenting. You have to keep trying to capture the wave. Where do you apply effort? Where do you stop applying effort? To know its rhythm, to know its cycle, and then when you catch it, it's a all the way to the shore. So it's like this on the spiritual path. It's like this when understanding the nature of the human condition. It can actually never be understood by anything that can be contained in a head. It's of a complete different order. It's this intelligence itself that we have to become. And then, oh, that's what this means. Oh, the leaf just fell and landed right in front of me. Ah, yeah, that's what that is. Oh, somebody just cut in front of me in the traffic. Oh, that's what that is. Oh, there's this misunderstanding with someone I'm communicating to. Oh, this is what that is. And look at all the layers over here and over there. And how's all this play happen? Is there anything should be said? Maybe not. Maybe I say I'm sorry. Maybe I say you're wrong. Maybe I don't say that so much. Maybe I'll talk about something that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. It's a learning to move into the dance with a different kind of intelligence that the mind is capable of. Because a part of you is there, all of that is you, as well as that which is you in a body. This integration between these two qualities of being. Then it can be spoken. Then it can be revealed. Then it can awaken something of that same quality in the people who can hear this, who can listen to these words. You can begin to sense a way of being that we have not been prepared for. A possibility for moving into relationship with existence that we had not known was possible, little less how to do it. Okay, let's continue.
Open rather your soul to her, and be content to feel her with a psychic nature, and see her with a psychic vision, that alone make a straight response to the truth. Then the mother herself will enlighten by their psychic elements your mind and heart and life and physical consciousness, and reveal to them, too, her ways and her nature.
This is the transmutation of the limited capacities of the human vessel. This transmuting of this psychic quality of awareness, this intelligence, this mind, this vital, this heart, this sensation of the body, all of these are together. All of these become converted. As the more and more the mother is allowed to penetrate us, the more and more we become skillful in allowing her to have her way with us. My whole awakening was this. Everything that's happened to me on this spiritual path was not an intellectual exercise. It was all learning to move like a body surfer into alignment with the ocean and the waves that were currently coming to me. And the work that I've done ever since this has started, everything I do with each of you is a continuation of this endless discovery and skillfulness of this endlessly unfolding possibility for each of us, for existence, for mankind. The more I do it, the more the divine is doing it. The more skillful becomes the expression of the divinity through this person. It's the action that's aligned with the intent of the divine to manifest itself with each of you and in the world that gives us this skillfulness, this capacity. The more we do it, the more capable we become. Okay.
Avoid also the error of the ignorant mind's demand of the divine power to act always according to our crude surface notions of omniscience and
omnipotence.
I know this.
Just, you're not in your mind.
I know, I'm sorry. and omnipotence.
I'm going to have to get, this is good as the last book I'm going to reveal for a while.
For our mind clamors to be impressed at every turn by miraculous power and easy success and dazzling splendor. Otherwise, it cannot believe that here is the divine. The mother is dealing with the ignorance in the fields of the ignorance. She has descended there and is not all above. Partly she veils, and partly she unveils her knowledge and her power, often holds them back from her instruments and personalities, and follows that she may transform them, the way of the seeking mind, the way of the aspiring psychic, the way of the battling vital, the way of the imprisoned and suffering physical nature.
She uses our worst attributes, our biggest limitations, our greatest obscurities, our strongest resistances. All of these are fodder for her work. She enters into those qualities in us that make us unique, distorted, perverted, strange, or it's just the normal outcome of being a human being on the planet. These become where she enters. It's like where she's interested. She's really interested in those secret perversions. She's really interested in that secret resentment and that fear and that trauma and that terror. This captures her attention. That's where she wants to go. Let me go there. I want to see that. I want to know that. I want to experience that. Because in the process of meeting it, it becomes transmuted, transformed into its own unique expression of this Satchitananda.
There are conditions that have been laid down by a supreme will. There are many tangled knots that have to be loosened and cannot be cut abruptly asunder. The Ashura and the Rakshasa hold this evolving earthly nature and have to be met and conquered on their own terms, in their own long conquered fief and province. The human in us has to be led and prepared to transcend its limits, and is too weak and obscure to be lifted up suddenly to a form far beyond it. The divine consciousness and force are there, and do at each moment the thing that is needed in the conditions of the labor. Take always the step that is decreed, and shape in the midst of imperfection the perfection that is to come.
Okay, here's what this means. In every moment of your day, the universe is showing you the very thing you need to be with so that it can manifest as you. Every obstacle, every resistance, every obscurity you become aware of, every struggle, every problem is the universe showing you exactly what you need to see so that it can manifest itself as you. That's what that means. It's not only be here now, but be here now with the lesson. Be here now with what is resisting or opposing or judging or controlling or demanding or wanting or all of that. Because that's all the universe wants. It only wants one thing: to manifest itself as you. Nothing else. There's nothing more important to the universe than to manifest itself as you. Now, no shit. You say, I can't be that important. I guarantee you, you're that important. You're the piece of the Supreme itself. This is just a human ego story. The fact that the universe is attending to you, we're not attending to it. It's been attending to you all along. Wake up, play your part. Become aware of how she is so laboriously working and sacrificing, giving of herself endlessly without any recognition of this quality of herself so that it can have a possibility of entering into that chunk of obscurity and resistance and judgment and positionality and preference that you are. That's what they get. The universe not just loves you. Love is mothers, fathers. The universe wants to be you. We're such a novelty. All our misery, all our suffering, all our separateness, all our structures and our belief is a novelty in this existence. And that which runs this existence, that's endlessly all one, always, is interested in the novelty more than anything. It wants to know you. It wants to understand you. It wants to experience you. It wants to know what it's like to be you. What does it feel like to be you? How do you maneuver through life? How do you brush your teeth? Do you go up and down or sideways? It wants to know all the details of you. It wants this in its passion to be, so that it can experience its own existence through us. Never ever losing its infinite tranquility, spaciousness, freedom. It can fully enjoy what we consider misery and suffering and bondage and pain, because it has no measure. It's all ananda for the Supreme. To be, to exist, to discover, to know, to experience. It's all it wants to do. And we're the individual expressions of that. Each body, each personality. That's what we're pointing to here. This is not some Divine Mother sitting up there. This is you. It's right there. It is what observes. It's what's listening to this talk. It's this feeling this transmission. It's this person who's sitting in this room and the way that it's sitting in the room, just like you are. That's this. You are this. So then what does that mean? That means every little piece, the Saraswati, every little piece of your life is an opportunity for that principle to find itself. Oh, I have a flat tire. How interesting. Let's pull out the spare. It's flat too. How interesting. Now how do I get where I need to go? How interesting. And then look what happened. So I can go where I need to go. How interesting. Life becomes this unfolding, this endless unfolding. No matter good, bad, dark, high, low. Unfolding, unfolding, unfolding. Attending to this unfolding. Finding the message. Of course, there are some that are very apparent. You find yourself doing the same old thing once again. Caught in the same old story. Same old, going down the same old rabbit hole. Here I go down my water slide into my sweet sorrow, into my sweet misery, into my depression. So I can live there where a toad in a muddy pond. Wallow in my obscurity and my limitation. Here I go again. We get tired of it, but the divine never gets tired. You want to go there? Okay, let's go there. That's fine with it. You want to do it again and again? Oh, this is a 766th lifetime? Okay, fine. It's all new. It's always new for that principle. So we become hip, one day. Maybe I could do something different, just, on a whim, or perhaps something else. Someone slaps us across the face or attacks us with a sword. Then we don't have time to go down the rabbit hole. And we say, well, I feel more alive. I feel pretty good. Everything's an opportunity. Everything's an opportunity for unfolding the possibilities that we're speaking of here. Okay, continue.
But only when the supermind has descended in you can she deal directly as the supermental Shakti with supermental natures. If you follow your mind, it will not recognize the mother, even when she is manifest before you. Follow your soul and not your mind. Your soul that answers to the truth, not your mind that leaps at appearances. Trust the divine power, and she will free the godlike elements in you and shape all into an expression of divine nature.
It is so multidimensional. There's no way this revelation can touch on the innumerable aspects of what's being described here. We can only look at whatever little slivers of it that I can make up while we're sitting here. But the principle of this is that we have to trust what he's calling the soul. We have to develop the soul-like quality that is actually the essence of what we are. Because this soul-like quality, which isn't linked to the mind or the intelligence or the future or the past, that isn't into preferences, isn't in demands or expectations or judgments or evaluations or comparisons, isn't into grief or just sorrow or in separation or anxiety or doubt or fear. It is that soul-like quality that can, in its inherent wisdom, know the truth of what's arising. Okay?
The supermental change is a thing decreed and inevitable in the evolution of the earth consciousness, for its upward ascent is not ended, and mind is not its last summit, but that the change may arrive, take form, and endure. There is needed the call from below with a will to recognize and not deny the light when it comes, and there is needed the sanction of the Supreme from above.
Okay, I want to talk about this. This is important. These are three principles that he's pointing to. Now, he wrote this book probably 1920s, 1925. And he was seeing what is now here. He was seeing the coming of what is now here. And he was preparing the people who were with him to be able to move into alignment with this very fundamental shift in spirituality. It's basically, in this spirituality, it isn't about if you live in a monastery or if you belong to a religion or a tradition or you follow your spiritual practices. It's about learning to be here now with what is actually happening in as many parts of yourself you can be open to. It is about a spirituality that can come out and be participant and in coinciding with our human experiences. It is a path that talks about where divine and human, universal and individual, personal and impersonal, can coexist at the same time, and even in the most ordinary circumstances. This new quality of consciousness is already here. Sri Aurobindo was seeing it. He was creating the structure so it could come into the planet, but it has awakened me, and it's awakened everybody that I work with. It is why we're having this conversation and why this recording is going to be on the website. It is because the listening has been prepared. It's establishing itself not just in any one of us, but in the collective consciousness. It is bringing forth this magnificent potentiality, this magnificent possibility of what it means to be alive, to be human, and to be on this planet in a way that's never been here before. Never. Evolution is at a peak right here. This cycle of the yuga, it's at a peak right here. A possibility can come into existence now that's not been available. More people are awakening and more people are misunderstanding the awakening than ever before in mankind's history. And there is more truth out here. There is more knowledge. There's more information than ever before. But that's too, it's like a Tower of Babel. It's too much information. It's not speaking to the very essential nature, but that's also part of the unfolding. It's this incredibly complex expression, which in its essence is silent and still. It is in essence that which lasts, that which never changes. And from that place, all of this makes perfect sense. All of this has a purpose. All of this has a direction. And it all serves. It all serves the opportunity that this existence is. And the opportunity being a human being on the planet at this time is. It's not just changing our bodies, our vitals, our mind, our perspective, our point of view. It's changing the fundamental structure of matter, the physicality that created bodies, the subatomic structures that allow for matter to come into existence. It's working in every dimension of existence, of this domain of space and time, duality, cause and effect. You know, children know this right off the bat. It's not something that should have to be taught. It's because we're so damn educated. We have to be untaught to move into alignment with this truth that has actually always been there, but actually our capacity to fully experience it or to manifest it or to become more perfect in its manifestation is just now occurring. Bodies are healthy enough. They can last long enough. We're not surviving for existing. As a matter of fact, we're pampered and indulged. We're being held up as gods and goddesses in this domain, kings and queens, hot and cold water, air-conditioned rooms, instantaneous transportation across the ground or through the air, over the seas, even into outer space. The whole universe is conspiring to let us see this godlike potential that all humanity carries. We have a role to play. Each of us. We have a purpose in this whole matrix of this unfolding. When we align with this purpose, this more perfect expression of the divine through us, as us, can occur. We can become a more perfect instrument for the unfolding of this possibility into existence. And the byproduct of that is we become that. Eternal, unchanging, silent stillness that holds the foundation of the mother and all this dance and all these apparencies and all these complexities.
The power that mediates between the sanction and the call is the presence and power of the Divine Mother. The Mother's power and not any human endeavor and tapasya can alone rend the lid and tear the covering and shape the vessel and bring down into this world of obscurity and falsehood and death and suffering truth and light and life divine and the immortal's ananda.
The sanction. The sanction of the divine. When the sanction comes, you know you're divine. Now, initially the sanction, we are dependent on something outside of ourselves to recognize that we've been sanctioned. What is this sanction? This sanction is just what he says here. It is the power that mediates between that which gives the sanction and the call within us for it. The Supreme is already in us. It's what calls out to the Supreme. When the Supreme hears the call, the Supreme sanctions itself in you. I can remember when it happened to me. My teacher gave me a spiritual name. He said, I am satisfied. Scott Barber has met all my challenges. He's met all the demands. I put him through every kind of torture I could imagine, and he still shows up. So now I give him this name. He gave me the name Siddhartha at that time. I was embarrassed. I didn't want a spiritual name. I went back to the West. And when I went back to the West, what happened was I felt this integration. It wasn't the final state yet, but I felt this mark, like I'd been marked, that somehow what it was that I now had become was real. The name may have been part of it, because I started talking to people who knew me as Scott, as Siddhartha, and they had to learn to be with me as Siddhartha, not the person, but as this new thing. But part of it was actually experiential. And I remember I was exploring Berkeley Psychic Institute back then, and I went to a general reading, and someone came up to me, was doing a reading on me, and she says, What's coming out of him? What is this? Something must be wrong with it. I couldn't figure it out. And the person who was supervising said, it's not a dark energy. This is, see that shield around his heart? That's a sanction. He's been sanctioned. The divine has chosen him. He's a sanction. She said this to the person. That's how I heard about it. All I was feeling was love. I was watching this person jump and dance and misinterpret what was happening. But this person who had more experience could see what it was. So the sanction is something that the ego gets in order to support itself to know that divine has chosen you and is now taking you on the path so that that sanction can be evidenced, so it can be manifested. As soon as someone sees the divinity in you, you get sanctioned. And when the divine person sees you, you get sanctioned. It is inevitable that when the divine sees you and you experience being seen, the sanction has occurred and the outcome is inevitable. You can kick and scream and fight it for 2 or 3 more lifetimes, but it's inevitable. And this is the power of every divine being on the planet who's aware of their divinity. Because as soon as you get seen by them and experience being seen by them, the Satchitananda is working. It too is set in motion, the same process that will make you that. This is the greatest of all powers. The greatest of all powers is to make someone divine. To let them know they're an instrument for this divinity, as you are already. You can let go of your fear, your need to prove yourself, to be good enough, to be loved, to have things a certain way. You can relax into that unfolding that's already set in motion. You can learn to recognize it as it comes up as an unspeakable sense of peace, or relaxation, or love, or safety, or spaciousness, whatever form it may show up. Because it's already been done. They have been killed by me already. All you have to do is clean the rubbish that's still in the way. And you will find that which you are. It's not a theory for me. This is not an abstraction for me. This is a direct experience. This is my reality. This is the reality. The old reality that I knew was such a rigid, narrow, limited structure. This is the true reality. So from here, now is to live this. Is to learn how to move into alignment with the fact that you are a manifestation of this Divine Mother principle. That all these qualities are you already. To bring these out, to find what in you that still fights and obscures them. In each day, day and day, there can be no greater sadhana. So this completes the Mother book. I'm really overwhelmed, but you can't tell, can you? Or can you tell? I'm really very overwhelmed. It's a magnificent thing. Everyone who listens to this, and this too will be free on the website, is going to find themselves sanctioned. I can go retire now. Not likely. I'll be dead first. Okay, all glory to Divine Mother. All right, let's meditate.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Thank you.